Oh, do I remember the first bass I caught? Yes. I was 8 years old in an inflatable raft with my dad in Spring Lake, Northern California. He had paddles, he was rowing it around, and I had an old green push button rod and reel. I don't know what brand it was, but I just remember it was a green reel, green handle, I think, and like white blank, but I had a little floating crankbait, purple, silver. It was a purple back, silver body crankbait about that big. I cast out there, and it was just sitting on the surface. And I'm looking around, and all of a sudden, spoosh! And I'm like, I got one! It was about that big. It was my first bass ever. My dad put it on a stringer for us, or for me. And at the end of the day, made me let it go. I was so mad. I cried so bad. I had to let that fish go because it wasn't a legal size. So we let my first bass go, but that was my first one ever.
The first bass I ever caught, well, heck yeah, that's what drove me to where I am today. I can remember, my dad was always a big bass fisherman, and my mom, she likes crappie fish, but he would always be bass fishing. So, 4 or 5 year old kid obviously wants to be just like daddy. And he rigged me up a little Carolina rig. It's like a split shot with a hook and a Zoom Lizard. And I fired it out there on a Zebco 33. And I remember I caught one, it probably wasn't that long, but it seemed like it was 6 pounds to me. And just something about fooling that fish and biting something that wasn't real just intrigued me.
I do remember, the first time I was fishing and my dad let me take over the boat. We just had an old aluminum boat and had a trolling motor on the front, and we always catfished, and he just let me take over the aluminum boat. And I'm talking about old school trolling motor, like ancient. And I remember catching a bass that day while he was back there eating crackers and banging the sausages.
Fishing with my dad, we used to fish Lake Cumberland a lot in the wintertime. Almost seemed like every Saturday we would go down there and fish. It was really cold, we would bundle up, but that was some of my best memories, and I can remember the picture, especially the first keeper largemouth I ever caught on Lake Cumberland.
The first bass I ever caught, it weighed 2 pounds, 6 ounces. I caught it off Bluebell Point with my mom and dad in an aluminum boat with no trolling motor. And my dad actually mounted the bass for me. So I was like, I think I was 3. I think it's hard to believe, but I think I was like 3.5 years old when I caught it. So, but I remember it just like it was yesterday.
My daddy had taken me to a little oxbow lake where he was crappie fishing, and I was kind of a tag along at the time. And I ended up catching it on a minnow. It wasn't a very big fella. He was only about that long, but there was something about him that really intrigued me because my daddy was a big crappie fisherman. But that bass, it did something to me, and I got the bug at a very early age.
I definitely remember my first smallmouth bass. I was fishing with my dad up in northern Michigan on Lake Leelanau, and it was a trip that they took every year with his company. He brought his guys up there, usually around Memorial Day, and they fished for smallmouth. We just fished out of a little aluminum boat. And the first one that I ever caught, I caught it on a live night crawler, and it was a 10-incher. But it just screamed and rip drag and jumped and pulled, and it was just everything I could do to get it in the boat. And I was 7 years old at the time, and it just made an impression on me that today, smallmouth are still my favorite from that very first time.
Well, I caught a bass fishing with my father at a really, really young age on a topwater bay. I remember using an old Johnson closed-face reel. And I don't know how old I was, 4 or 5, but yeah, I was very fortunate as a young kid to have a father and a grandfather that both fished a lot, took me fishing, and we fished, gosh, at times every day.
My dad he's the reason I fish for a living, because his love and passion for the outdoors is, it's one of those things that if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have learned to have the love for the outdoors and go meet people that were like-minded anglers as a kid that I grew up with. And so, yeah, unfortunately, it's like, I'm like, all emotional. I lost my dad this year, so it's been tough. I'll love him. I know he's watching. He's proud of me. He's up there just, go get a line wet and go catch me a big one. So that's what I'm going to go do.